The time by Jamaica Mountain Peak Golden Turmeric Latte is
12 p.m.
It's Wednesday, April 24, 2024. Welcome to CVM News at noon. I'm Ramon Gordon. Dwayne Vaz, the People's National Party's caretaker for Westmoreland Central, says his hands are now clean following an Integrity Commission report which recommends he be charged for breaching the Integrity Commission Act. The anti-corruption body alleges Vaz failed to provide information requested by its Director of Information and Complaints. Speaking on CVM's lead story on Tuesday, Vaz says he's confused by the ruling, especially because he's been in dialogue with the IC.
What they're charging me for is not to submit documents which I have submitted and which I have a letter from the Integrity Commission proving that I did submit these documents. So what I thought
hold on, Mr. Vaz. Let's walk carefully so the listeners, the viewers rather, can understand where we are. So you were engaged in a process with the Integrity Commission around your filings for the 2019 period. You said you were asked for additional information. You're saying you provided that.
Yes, I provided that. And that was cleared with the Integrity Commission, and I have the letter to prove that.
Right. So the fact of the additional information that you needed to provide, you have correspondence from the Commission acknowledging that you had satisfied the request for additional information.
Yes, I have that correspondence.
When was that correspondence dated?
May 18, 2021.
Vaz admits that at some point in 2021, additional documents were requested by the Integrity Commission, which he submitted beyond the original deadline. However, he says he assumed all was well thereafter.
When I filed in 2020 for the 2019 period, there were some outstanding documents that they asked for. For circumstances outside of my control, the documents were submitted late, and I was in constant communication with them with regards to that. And after submitting that, I did receive a letter from them, a notice from them actually, stating that I must submit or pay a fine. I must submit in 21 days. I submitted about 2 weeks after that 21 days period went, to be honest with you. But after submitting, then I received a letter on May 18 stating that everything has been duly filed and that everything is okay. So that's why 3 years later, I'm surprised that I got a summons earlier in March. I actually went to court the 9th of April, and on that court date, the statement showing what I was charged for was I could not plead because I was not guilty for that. Because basically they're charging me for not filing the documents, and as I said, I have proof that I filed the documents. So that is the confusion that is there.
Meanwhile, the changes within the JLP's executive ranks on Sunday have not gone unnoticed by the opposition. The changes include the resignation of Homer Davis as a Deputy General Secretary for Western Jamaica. Davis also served as a Member of Parliament for St. James Southern, where the PNP's Nikisha Burchell is hoping to unseat him.
If the Jamaica Labour Party has seen it fit to relieve Mr. Davis of this responsibility, then it is also signaling to us and to the people in South St. James that we ought to make some decisions where Mr. Davis is concerned. The centre cannot hold, and Mr. Davis is the latest casualty from a crumbling Jamaica Labour Party organisation. The Jamaica Labour Party has lost confidence in Mr. Davis's ability to support them and serve them as a Deputy General Secretary. And the people of South St. James will be making a similar signal in the very near future.
Now in Comfort, Clarendon, residents are calling for urgent road repairs. Their frustrations reached a boiling point on Tuesday after they blocked the main road. They claim that ever since the Maypen to Williamsfield leg of the Southern Coastal Highway was completed, all other roads were fixed except theirs. With no definitive response from the government, tensions flare as the community demands action.
This is the third time now we are blocking road. MP, we not no MP. Councillor, we not no councillor. When we call the councillor, we come and MP, if we come, no matter if we go block the highway, that's not impossible to block the highway. You understand? Because people have to go work on the highway. But we want a road. Look at the road out here. I buy a brand new car. I come here and I buy a brand new car and my car mash up sake of the road. So we need the road. The whole community come together. We need the road. We need the road.
Still in Clarendon, the community of West Park was shattered by gunfire at the weekend. Dead is a businesswoman from the area. The police are now exploring a possible link between Sunday's fatal shooting and another killing, which happened about 2 weeks ago. Here's more from Celine Campbell.
Crime scene after crime scene. It's the grim reality which now plagues Councillor for the Denby Division, Joel Williams, following the murder of a businesswoman with whom he once worked. Reports from the Clarendon Police are that on Sunday, April 21, 40-year-old Joanna Juju Hansen was shot and killed by gunmen masquerading as customers. The incident unfolded sometime after 7 p.m. along West Park Road. The deceased was reportedly in her bar when a silver-gray Toyota Axia motor car approached her establishment. It's alleged the assailants exited the vehicle and opened fire at Hansen, hitting her multiple times. The men escaped in the waiting vehicle.
It came closer to home because the person who was murdered earlier on, Joanna Hansen, is one of my election day workers. A community person. She's in her 30s. Very, very hard-working community individual.
Recently, a man was shot to death and his girlfriend injured in the same community. Commanding officer for the parish, Superintendent Carlos Russell, says it's likely both incidents are connected.
The Western Park area has been relatively quiet. However, we have seen in the past week that there was a murder at the exact location. We believe that murder was a hit, and we believe that that this murder may be a follow-up to that incident.
Meanwhile, the concerned councillor is confident justice will be served.
Well, I leave the law to take its course, and I'm pretty sure that the police will do their job and will make sure that the culprit are brought to justice. We are carrying out investigation, and at this point, we are asking anyone that can assist us to do so.
Up to April 20, Clarendon recorded 23 murders since the start of the year. Celine Campbell for CVM News.
CVM News at noon continues after this break.
There are certain moments in life you'll cherish forever, like finding love, realizing your life is going to change forever, creating your dream home. These are your great moments, and helping you to achieve them is ours. Chris and Charles, powering great moments since 1992. When you think loans, think Chris and Charles.
Mindset Conference 2024, the Gospel Edition, Monday to Wednesday, May 20 to 22, at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel with Pastor John Gray, Pastor Travis Green, Dr. Jackie Green, Todd Galbert, Phil Thomas, Minister Marion Hall, Kevin Downswell, Sherry Gardner, Rhoda Isabella, Pastor Junior Tucker, Bishop Everton Thomas, and many more. Join us for dinner, workshop, panel discussions, praise and worship, undiluted word, and concert every night. Mindset Conference. For more info, mindsetconference.org. Get your tickets now.
The University of the West Indies, Mona, is moving full speed ahead with plans to revitalize and monetize its physical assets. Pro Vice Chancellor and Campus Principal Denzel Williams made the announcement recently.
As part of the revenue revolution for the campus, we're looking at areas where we can actually use our physical assets to generate significant revenue for the campus, and also use our core business to generate revenue for the campus. We have been talking about it for a while, and as they say in Jamaica, you ride, whistle, and chew gum at the same time. And so we don't have the luxury, based on where we are now in our financial life cycle, to just keep planning without execution. And so today I'm very pleased that we are here as a manifestation that we are not only planning, but we are actually executing at the same time.
With all the uncertainties in today's society, at least one financial education expert is urging Jamaicans to set up a rainy day or emergency fund. She warns that not having emergency funds can be stressful.
We have to think about what is the cost if we don't have it. Are you going to have to walk around and beg people? Or borrow from people? Or is it that you may have to deny yourself something which is important to you? And when you think about what the cost is and really sit down with what the cost is, then you'll be more inclined to say, let me set up this fund.
And that's your quick biz. Be sure to tune in to CVM News for the latest business news of the day. I'm Andrew Laidley.
Welcome back. It's time for our discussion segment. Today we turn our attention to a pressing issue that continues to make headlines in Jamaica: sexual assault. It's a growing plague that affects many Jamaicans, especially the most vulnerable among us, including children. With April being recognized as Sexual Assault Awareness Month, numerous groups across the island have intensified efforts to raise awareness and provide support. Joining us now to delve into this critical issue is children's advocate Diane Gordon-Harrison. Mrs. Gordon-Harrison, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon.
Firstly, can you provide some insight into the current landscape of sexual assault in Jamaica? What do the current figures reveal?
All right. So first, I want to start by defining what sexual assault is so that your listeners and viewers understand fully what we're talking about when we, quantify the problem. So sexual assault involves a range of physical violations that are of either direct sexual nature or sexual connotation. And so that means it includes the big ticket items like rape, which of course is non-consensual sexual intercourse. It includes incest, which is sexual abuse or sexual interaction between persons who are blood relatives. It also includes sex with a person under 16 years. So even though the person may be willing and may be very happy to have the sexual encounter, the law says that if you're below 16, which is below the age of consent, you cannot legally consent to sex. So that is still an offense. And then, of course, there are all the other offenses, such as sexual touching someone on the buttocks or on the breast. There is also sexual grooming, which means that you haven't actually made physical contact, but you have started a discussion that is preparing your victim or your prospective victim to receive the sexual abuse directly when you, in fact, intend to launch off. So it's a whole range. What does it look like? We still, of course, also I should tell you that there is no grievous sexual assault, which includes sexual violations without the use of a male organ. So it's when you use, for example, a broomstick or some other object to insert into a sexual orifice of another human being, that's now recognized as a sexual offense within our local laws. And what the landscape is looking like, unfortunately, is that we still have a high incidence of sexual assault. When we look at, for example, the figures in relation to alleged abuse of children, we find that sexual assault consistently comes up at either category 2 or category 3 in terms of the number of reports that exist. The other challenge, though, is that we still have a very large taboo around the issue of sexual violence. And so you still have a lot of victims who do not come forward because of the shame, because of the guilt, because of the embarrassment, or because they're being encouraged by family members and those who are close to them that they should just let it go, because many people have had these kinds of abuses and they're just fine. So do not sweat what they see as a small issue, which is really quite a problem that we're having locally.
Ms. Gordon Harrison, we're going to take a quick break, but we'll continue this discussion soon after. Stay with us.
Truth is, you can live life to the fullest with HIV. This time signal is brought to you by the Ministry of Health and Wellness. The time is
12:15.
We're talking Sexual Assault Awareness Month with Diane Gordon Harrison. Now, before we went to the break, you were talking about problems in tackling sexual assault, one such being the issue of taboos. How do we go about raising awareness and challenging these misconceptions in public?
All right, so it means that the dialogue has to be consistent and it has to be persistent. It can't just be during Sexual Abuse Awareness Month. It has to be something that we talk about all the time through regular traditional media, in social media spaces, in school PTA meetings, church meetings at school, at church, and so on, because the sensitization is one of the key things that will cause the tide to change. Another thing that is important, I think, to put on the table if we're talking about shifting culture is to look at the impact of sexual abuse or sexual violence on the victim. Some persons have expressed the view that when you are sexually violated, it's worse than if somebody had murdered you. Because what happens is that the victim, unless very serious and innovative intervention is provided at a high level, the victim of a sexual violence incident carries that burden well into adulthood. We have victims, for example, I've interacted with one very recently, who says that her sexual abuse happened first when she was 8 years old, and it lasted until she was 15. She's now in her mid-50s, and she still had up to, I think when she was in her 40s, serious episodes in terms of mental health issues, in terms of wanting to end her life, because she clearly had been forgotten by God, in her words, if this were allowed to happen to her. She had challenges interacting with persons who wanted to have a normal relationship with her, not even sexual, but just even in terms of persons in her workspace, because there was an issue with trust and there was an issue with really giving the best of yourself and being vulnerable. She has had issues in terms of her relationships. And there are also physiological changes that take place in the brain and the body in victims who have sexual abuse experiences. So if this kind of reality, I think, is interwoven with any kind of awareness building, it should make persons in the society recognize that this is not just a little sex, as we like to say sometimes. It's not just, oh, par for the course. Many women or men have had this, happen to them. So just, stop being so petty. But it really is a life-changing and debilitating experience that really hampers people's development. And if we're having people who are walking around with this kind of impediment in terms of their growth and their ability to adjust and interact with others, it means that we're changing the narrative and the culture of our society, because we don't want to have dysfunctional people who are walking around with a lot of baggage. So if people understand the severity of the impact and how many years it takes away from the life of a victim, I think that's a good starting point for them to encourage people to seek help. And a part of that help for a lot of the victims is to access justice and to access support in terms of psychological care, and also to have an outlet where they can, in fact, share their experience with a view to preventing others from having the same kind of negative life experience.
That was children's advocate Diane Gordon Harris. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for having me. Take care.
So much. Take care. Now we have Quick Biz with Andrew Laidley.